Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Insurance Town. I'm the Mayor, Heath Sheeran, and the host of this podcast. And I am super pumped you're here hanging out with me today. As always, I absolutely love it when you're here hanging out with me and that you spend your time with me every week. And it's so much fun for me because I love you guys. I love people. I love the relationships I've gotten to build. And it's been 5 years we've been doing this, over 5 years. Jeez. And I'm so thankful. And I just found out, Smart Choice is hanging with me for another year. So I'm super pumped about that. They've been with me now for quite some time. And thanks to them, they get to hang out with me for a whole nother year. And I am jacked about it. And I know you are too. Canopy Connects, rejoining and hang out with me some more. We just did a webinar with them last week on Insurance Town and the town hall meeting. If you guys were there, you had a blast. If you've listened to it since then, I've already had a lot of comments. And Ray tells me there's been people signing up and clicking and all the things. This episode is also sponsored by those two. Use canopyconnect.com/Heath. Go check it out. Get a discount and a demo. And see why it's such a must-need for your agency to collect deck pages, to get into all the intake forms, to collect loss runs, to do all of the things. I mean, they are just I just can't say enough good about them. So make sure you go check that out. And then also Smart Choice, smartchoiceagents.com. Go to their website, check it out. They're more than just a network. They would come alongside you and partner up with you to help you write more business, to help you have higher commissions, lower premium thresholds, no monthly contracts, no annual fees, things like that. They just work off commission splits off the carriers they bring to the table, not the existing ones. Make sure you just go check it out. I mean, you can't go wrong. Make sure you go check it out. So, guys, this week, I'm just going to be hanging out with you guys solo. So, if you like that, hang out with me for a little while. If not, go check out another one of your favorite podcasts. But, I just wanted to spend some time with you and have a little family time here because it's been a wild ride. It's been a fun year. Here it is. We are now in September, and I've got 2 or 3 more big trips coming up, including I'll be at Insure Expo 25 in North Carolina, speaking at the Big I, and doing a breakout session, doing a general session. I'm super excited about that. I get to go to ITC and speak at ITC Agents, which ITC is just huge and so much fun to see that many vendors and that many people, and to be a part of something that's still somewhat new in the ITC Agents. And, Hanley and Cass and that whole crew has done a really, really good job with that. And, I'm just excited about being a part of it and getting to do a mic drop session with them. And then this week or next week, I'll be getting to go to spend some time with some people in Washington, D.C. and get to visit with some of the legislators and get to lobby a little bit for that matter and talk about some of the things that matter to me. And I love this industry so freaking much. It means the world to me. And I get to travel with my wife and some of our family in Arkansas. We get to go and just visit with some really, really cool people. And it's awesome. And so I'll give a full report on that, I'm sure, when I get back, and you'll hear me talk about that. But, people, I get emails and text messages all the time from people, and I haven't done a mailbag episode in a while, and so this one may be a quick one. But one of the things that I hear about the most that people want to talk to me about is, like, as I'm on the road, what are some of the hot topics people are talking about? What do you talk about when you go on the road? Do you have one canned topic you talk about all the time, or do you, talk about different things? Like, they just ask me these questions, and, like, when I get approached to speak at events, people ask me, what are your topics you speak on? Can you talk about this? Can you do that? And, I've developed some new topics this year as I've spoken 18 times this year. I think I added up. It's been a lot this year, and it's been just unbelievable. And it's been so much fun. So that being said, one of the biggest things that, I developed a talk early on in my career, cheesy as it may be, just called, like, becoming the mayor of your town. And it's just it was about niches, about growing niches or niches. What do you say? Niche or niche? What do you say? I always say niche. Maybe it's a Southern thing. but I know some people say niche, which to me just sounds too fancy, and I'm not fancy by any means. But, whatever you want to say, niche or niche. Now I can't say it right. It sounds funny both ways. Niche, niche. I'm going to say niche. So, or I could just call it verticals. I hear a lot of people use verticals. That sounds like a cool way of saying it. So, whatever you might call it, that's just something that I really enjoy talking about. And there for a little bit, I put that one on the shelf, and I was talking about AI, and I was talking about out of service, and I did my other keynotes, and I've done some stuff around agency management systems and things of that nature, generative AI. But this becoming the mayor in this niche topic and verticals. Sorry, we said we're going to call it verticals. This developing verticals kind of thing has really come back around, and people have been asking me about that one again. So I think it's something that's super important to people right now. And what I'm hearing is because it is such an important thing right now because of this way this market is. And, whether you call it hard or transitioning or whether you call it a evolving market, whatever, I've heard it called a lot of things. Just because it's easier for me to just call it a hard market still. Obviously I know that, workers' comp and some other lines of business are getting softer, and we are getting a little bit softer from what I understand, but I'm still hearing overwhelming from different agencies I talk to and carriers at events I talk to. It's still a tough market right now. And, I think because of that, I think we're still having this idea of how can I stand out in this hard market? How can I stand out in this market in general? And I always say to people when they talk to me about hard market and they talk to me about this kind of thing, I remember, and I've been in it long enough time, I've been through a couple of cycles, whether it's soft market or hard market or whatever kind of market it is. Even during this soft market, which some of you listening might be like, what's that like? I would love to see a soft market. No, you wouldn't, because you're still going to complain because people are still shopping to save $1. People are complaining about this or that, or they're saying, I got a cheaper quote from so-and-so down the street, or this one, that, or whatever it might be. People are still price sensitive, whether it's hard or soft market. Now, in the hard market, people are saying, oh, my rates are going up too high, I need to shop it. Whereas with the soft market, people are saying, oh, I got a cheaper quote from so-and-so, or they're shopping because someone told them that they got a cheap quote, or they see the commercials, or they see this or that. And I even still see commercials. I saw one the other day for a company. I won't say the name of it, but the commercial, talked about cutting their insurance bill in half. And again, whether that's true or not, whether it's valid or not, I don't know. But if you're shopping, or if your clients are shopping for that cutting their bill in half thing, you may not want them as a customer. And we might get into some of that here in a few minutes, but I just tend to think that, the glass is never, half full or half empty. I think it's just what it is, to be honest with you. And it just depends on how you look at it. And I think you could look at both hard and soft market as, glass is half full if you can prepare for that properly. And I think that regardless of where it's at, I think what it is trying to stand out in whatever that market is. And so I say all that to say, as we, talk a little bit today, because I know we're an insurance town, so I don't want to just spend too much time just talking. I want to kind of get into a little bit of content, maybe, so to speak. So again, how do you stand out? And I think about this a lot. And I tell you, think in my own mind, I have ADHD really, really bad. And I have these squirrel moments all the time to where some things stick and some things don't, and some things make it through the brain that I have and some things don't. And I think about, for example, when I go through, let's say, a trade fair hall, or I go to an event and there's hundreds of people there at an event, as I'm walking through, I try to think about what stands out to me. And certain people that recognize me, and they'll come up to me and they'll want to say hi and shake my hand, and they'll recognize me from the show or from other events, or maybe they know me or maybe they don't. But certain people stand out to me in a certain way and some people don't. Certain vendors stand out to me, and I'm going through there and I'll see something at a booth that'll really stand out to me. I'm like, I wonder why that stuck in my brain and why it didn't, and what's going on with these things. And I never have been able to try to quite figure out my brain, or the ADHD brain, so to speak. But, I started doing a little bit of research on that, to be honest with you. And I started thinking, what is it, that makes things stand out to you? And, there's some scientific words behind it, and there's some studies out there. You could probably look it up, but just so I don't bore you too much, the way I boil it down is that your brain, my brain, your brain, our brains basically have its own bouncer or filter, so to speak. And I find this fascinating as I go through, and I've researched several websites. And if you want to know where some of this research comes from, or what I did, and what filters I went through on that, or what ChatGPT prompts I put in, or Google searches, hit me up on DMs, or email me, and I'll let you know. But what I found in all my research, and I boiled it down to basically that get through your brain's bouncer. Now I say bouncer just because I think it's fun to think of your brain as having a bouncer, and it's like, all right, your name's on the list, you're getting in. Nope, you're not. Nope, you are. And so I just like to think of it that way. And it's just fun for me. So what gets past the brain's bouncer? What gets past that? And people, as you're listening to this, maybe you take notes, maybe you think about it, or maybe you're just listening like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So I'll try to make it easy to remember by using like one letter, maybe. But okay, so let's say scary things. And horror movies are really popular over the last couple of years because, especially in the theaters, because people want that shared experience of being scared or frightened. Ooh, frightened's a good word. I like frightened. What do you like better, scary or frightened? I think frightened just sounds cool. But anyway, things that scare you, things that frighten you usually stick out in your brain, whether it's a scary movie or a part in a scary movie, or maybe a near-death experience kind of thing might stand out to you, or or that time you got stung by a bee and that scares you, or you saw a snake in the yard, or this or that happened, or near-death experience of some sort. But things that are scary usually stick out to people's brains. And the other thing that I found, number two, would be things that are funky, or strange, or fun. We'll stick with the F theme of funky. Funky things kind of stick out to you. And an example I'll give of that is, have you ever driven by one of those, a car lot for that matter, and they have that big air blow up thingy that kind of moves around and floats its arms. It's like dancing out there. It's like an air dancer is what they call it, I think. And it's out there and it's doing all the things. And if you're watching the video, you saw me imitating it like a big doofus. But yeah, those big air, they're kind of funky, and they make you kind of stop and oh, well, that's kind of cool. Or people that will do something fun or funky outside their building, or they have a commercial that's for shock value or funky, silly, whatever it might be. Those things kind of stick out to your brain. If it's strange or unique or different, it sticks out. And so, I would say, that's probably, one of the biggest things. And for me, that usually stands out a lot. Like if I'm going through, like I said, a trade fair, I'm walking through the trade hall, or I'm at an event and I see someone with a loud shirt on, or maybe some loud socks, or their booths elaborately decorated or fun or funky, or they look different than everybody else. It's a little bit different. It stands out to me. So we got frightening number one. We'll go fun or funky number two. So we'll stick with F words. Everybody loves a good F word. Number three, I would say is flashy. Things stick out in your brain that they're kind of flashy, or they're fabulous, or they're I don't know, kind of sexy almost in a way. But sticking with my F words, we'll go with flashy. So a lot of times in beer commercials, you'll see them use, flashy women, or they'll use good looking men, or they'll or the jewelry commercials will have a flashy ring, or they'll have a flashy necklace, or a fabulous this or that. And so that usually sticks out in your brain as well. And I notice for me, shiny objects always do that. When you're ADHD, shiny objects always get you. And it's just one of those things. It gets past your brain's filter, its bouncer, so to speak, and it's on the list every time. So it's frightening if it's funky or fun, if it's flashy, if it's super fabulous, whatever it might be. Like the car commercials, they put these gorgeous cars on these commercials because it stands out to you when you're watching a TV trailer or a movie trailer or whatever it might be, they're going to show you the most flashy parts of the movie or the most outlandish, fabulous parts of the movie because they want you to go watch that movie. That's going to stick out in your brain. The last two are probably my favorite two, and the two that I probably spend the most time on in my own personal life. So if you're taking commercials, goodness gracious, Heath Sharon. If you're taking notes, if you're taking notes, these last two are pretty big in my life. And maybe just because I'm from the South and I'm cheap or silly or funny or whatever. I don't know, but I love free things. If you know me at all, you know I love Sam's. I love going to Sam's or going to somewhere where they have free samples on Saturdays. I love Sam's in general because it's just great. And I love going to those big box stores. Gosh, I can't talk. Big box stores. Say that 3 times fast and see if I can't even say that. Big box stores like Costco or Sam's, because little secret here, a little behind the curtains. I buy all my clothes just about from Costco or Sam's because they have some really good brands there, and they're cheap and they're fun, and it's all right there easy. If I'm there on a Saturday and I'm getting all my groceries for the 5 of us at home, I've got a large, I got 3 kids, I got a dog, I got a cat, my wife and I, and then we tend to have a lot of the kids' friends over, so we buy in bulk. And so I can get my groceries, and then if I pass by and I see a hoodie that I like, or I see, a dress shirt that I like, or some jeans or whatever, why not? I'll pick it up. In fact, I'm wearing an entire outfit as we speak right now from Costco, maybe, or Sam's. Anyway, Eddie Bauer shirt and a pair of Banana Republic jeans, and they all came from a big box store. But I'm getting off subject again, back to my ADHD. But I love going through there on Saturdays. My kids love to laugh at me about it because I'll go through and I'll hit all the free samples up. And sometimes I'll buy the things I meet or I see there and I'll try. And sometimes I just want to do it just because it's fun. But you'll see those, buy one, get one free sales. My wife loves a good BOGO. Or you'll see something on like the TikTok shop or on the whatever, or Amazon. There'll be like these sales where you get one free. Or at the grocery store, you'll see, buy 3, get 1 free or whatever. But free always sticks in your brain. And if you see a brand new opening of a restaurant, they'll say, hey, we're giving away a free dessert or happy hour. If you buy this, you'll get this free. Whatever it might be, free always sticks out, especially in my brain. I'm sure it does in yours. Then the last one's familiar. And this is probably the most important one for me that I focus on. And that's, the familiar. When I'm walking through an event or I'm going through anywhere I go for that matter, if something feels familiar, it's going to stick out in my brain. I'm a very much creature of habit. I like the familiar. I like going to the grocery store at the same time, at the same day. In fact, I go to the grocery store every day, but I like to go because I know where everything is. When they switch up things at the grocery store, that makes me upset because I know where I can get all my things. If you mess with them, then I'm not happy about it. But that sticks out in my brain. I was talking to an agent today that was telling me that they have certain clients that still want to come in the office and sit down and visit and want to hang out. Or if they see him at the grocery store, if they see him out and about at a parade or at a kid event or a soccer tournament or a football game, they're going to visit with them because they feel familiar. They want to sit down and visit because they feel familiar. If you're consistent on social, if you're consistent in your life, if you're consistently doing things, if you are doing those types of things, it helps you to become familiar to them. If they see you in the same places, you're familiar, you're going to stick out in people's brains. So you got frightening, fun or funky, flashy, I think is what I said, fabulous, and you got free, and then the familiar. Those are the 5 things that stick out in your brain as gets past the brain's bouncer. And so, as you think through trying to build a niche or a vertical, you want to find a way to get past those filters with people. Now, I don't suggest you use fear, although you see about a lot of that. You'll see a lot of insurance agents that'll post things about, using fear as a factor to buy insurance. Especially if you'll see someone like, what if you were to have a nasty car accident? What would happen? Or what if, you were to die tomorrow? Do you have enough life insurance? Using fear, which if that works for you, by all means, go for it. I just want to focus on the two that I like to focus on. But like the fun and the funky, those could be fun. Those could work for you. If you could find a way in your niche or in your day to day to stand out in that way, go for it. Flashy works, free. But the one that works the most for me, is familiar. Now, in my agency career, when I was selling, I had several verticals that I worked in, several niches. And one of them that I really enjoyed working in, and I've talked about it a lot on this show, is HVAC contractors. And that sounds super, micro, I guess you could say, to be not just contractors, but HVAC contractors. Now that led to plumbing and service contractors like, your energy or your, electricity. What do you call those? Electricians. Goodness gracious, it's end of the day and I'm having a tough time with words. But it did lead to some others. But yeah, with HVAC, I became a familiar voice and a familiar face for them because I went to all of their meetings. I was involved in their association. I went to their association meetings. I went to their events and their conferences, and I was on their board of directors, and I took them out to lunches, and I went to sponsor their events. And, my agency sponsored the HVACR Association in Arkansas, and it allowed me the liberties to show up on a consistent basis. It allowed me to be a voice in their space coming from the outside looking in. And I became a familiar place for them, and I became an expert for them. And I became someone that they recognized, that they knew, that I felt familiar to them. I felt right to them. I felt like someone they could trust because I was there. And they knew that, I could write other things, but I like to write HVAC contractors. And they had their friends that were insured by me, and their friends might have been insured by me. And it became a thing. Now, I wasn't the largest HVAC contract writer in the state of Arkansas or the country or anything like that, but I had enough that made me feel familiar, that I would get referrals, that I would get people that felt comfortable with me. And, I really feel like agencies succeed when they provide value first and they specialize instead of trying to be everything for everyone. That's my words again. Agencies succeed when they provide value first and they specialize instead of trying to be everything for everyone. And I'm not saying if you're a generalist listening to this that you're in the wrong now. You're not at all. Kudos to all of those that are generalists that are crushing it out there. I love that for you. I've just noticed for me personally, and for a lot of the agencies that email me and call me or are successful on this show in the 5.5 years I've been doing this, I have found a common theme that a lot of them are specialists. A lot of them are in the niches or they're in the verticals of focusing on one thing. And I think that's great. And the reason why it's so great is because you can provide a certain value that you can't provide anywhere else. If you know me, I'm all about value. I have given the keynote speak on your value add a dozen times in this industry. And I've done my newest keynote is, out of service, where I talk about providing and growing your business out of service, which ties in a lot of those value adds and a lot of those things like that. Excuse me. But that is one of the things. I gotta get a drink of water, guys. But I'm not going to edit this, so you're going to have to deal with it. Hang on a minute. I love you guys. Thanks for being patient with me. But yeah, so, when you do find that vertical, you're able to provide value. You're able to sit down with enough HVAC contractors, enough restaurant owners, enough home builders. I don't know what your niche might be. It could be florists. It could be, bakeries. It could be, I don't know what it is. A lot of people have the contractor niche or truckers. It could be a trucker's niche. Whatever your vertical may be, you could sit down with enough of those people in that industry and ask the right questions or ask the same questions and take mental note. Be curious. Find out, what are your pain points? What keeps you up at night? What are you thinking about on a regular basis that keeps you up at night? What are you worried about? What are you looking for in an insurance agent? That's a good one right there. What are you looking for? Because if they're talking to you about their insurance, there's something that they're not getting from their current agent. I don't care if they tell you they are so happy with their current agent, then why are they talking to you? You know what I mean? Um, unless you just walked in off the street. But even then, they could easily say, "Hey, I'm with somebody right now. I'm incredibly happy. I don't want to lead you down this, road or lead you on whatever it might be. I'm happy where I'm at." If they're talking to you, there's probably a reason. So find out, hey, what is it about, your current program that you're not happy with? Or what are you looking for to improve if you want to come at it from that angle? You want to ask them things like that. What are, some of the pain points? What are some common claims they might have? What's been a situation? Have you had any claims lately? And if you have, because once you ask that question, then, you kind of have that lead in instead of asking for loss runs and things like that, which you're going to have to get loss runs anyway, but you can go ahead and start doing a little fact finding while you're there. If they ever do become a client or a prospect, you could just, hey, have you had any claims recently? How'd that go? And if you have the right disposition and you have the right attitude and you're curious enough about it, people will tell you, oh man, we haven't had that many claims. Man, we had this one where one of my drivers got in a little fender bender or a car accident or ran into this, or, we had some faulty workmanship claims, or we had this. I don't know. They could just start rattling off claims like, oh, how'd that situation go? And they'll either tell you, man, it was the best experience ever. I really enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy, nobody enjoys a claim, but you know what I mean? I enjoyed the experience. They treated me well. They got back to me. The agency was great. The carrier was great, whatever. Or they could come back to you and tell you horror stories. Ask them those kind of things. And honestly, be curious. Take notes. I don't care if you take notes in your phone while you're sitting there and you just tell them, hey, I'm taking some notes. Or if you take a pad and paper with you, I don't care how you do it. But if you're doing a Zoom call with them, ask if you can hit record. Ask if you can bring in an Otter AI or a Voma or whatever your recording software is and really take some notes on that. And so, I think that's super hypercritical to be able to really sit down with people and take initiative and really try to understand where they're at and what they want to talk to you about and what you want to talk to them about. Because once you start showing that, then they might even start thinking, man, this guy really cares. And then if you start throwing back some of their lingo at them, if you've been in that niche for a while, dude, you're going to be money. Because again, while you're in these niches, it's going to help you to have less competition because, yeah, anybody can write your specific niche. But if you are positioning yourself, your brand as the HVAC guy, the contractor guy, the restaurant guy, the florist guy, the whatever guy, the trucker guy, you're going to eliminate competition because you're going to be seen as that expert. And they're going to be like, well, why would I go anywhere else? Heath's the guy who does it. Billy or Susie, Sally, they're the trucker insurance guy. And maybe you buy a domain of truckerinsurancearkansas.com, whatever. I don't know. It builds a loyal customer base. That was one of the biggest things, when people started identifying my brand and Heath Sharon with HVAC or with hospitality, with restaurant business, they knew, oh, this is the guy. I need to go to him. And I would also get lots of people that even weren't my clients in the beginning that would call me and ask me questions. Hey, I know I'm not your client right now, but how would I handle this? Or here's my question about that. And I became the one, for them. I became their HVAC go-to guy. You become more referable, right? When you have a niche like HVAC or trucking or whoever, you become so easy to refer to because people know that's the guy. And one of the sidebars I would say about that would be train your referral partners to know what you're looking for. Because you don't want, I didn't want just every HVAC guy. I wanted a specific HVAC person. I wanted the ones who, had some pain points. I wanted the ones that may have had a few claims or had some hair on them, or I wanted the ones that have had a little bit of turnover problems or whatever, because I knew that pain point was going to be easier for me to solve. I mean, I would have written a lot of them, but and train them on how that process goes, because I'll tell you how great that is. So I used to tell referral partners, whether it was personal lines, HVAC, whether it was, referral partners for restaurant business. I had this one guy that worked for one of the large food distributors. I think it was Cisco Foods. I had him as a referral partner that I met through some networking event I went to. And I would tell him, hey, here's how it's going to work. When you refer them to me, this is my step-by-step process. They're going to come in, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go here. Then after this, they're going to get an email from me on this. They're going to get this process. They're going to have this. I'm going to introduce them to these people, blah, blah, blah. So they knew my step-by-step. And you know what started happening? When I got referrals, they would reference what I was doing. I remember I was talking to one of the restaurants that I was quoting, and I think it was like to that point where I needed to ask them, if I hadn't gotten them by then, for their loss runs and to get them to reach out and collect those and do all that. I can't remember which step it was in the process, but I remember when I said something to them about that, and I provided them with an email template to send off, because this was years ago, but send off an email template to their underwriters to be able to request that. They're like, oh yeah, so-and-so said that you were going to do that. And I was like, what? And I was like, yeah, they told me your process would be this. So I went ahead and did that. I sent an email off and I requested my loss runs from my agent. My carrier sent them to me earlier. I'll forward them to you now. And I was like, oh my gosh, so cool. And I had another similar situation later that, I called them about 6 months, almost to the day after I wrote the policy the first time, just to check in and see how they were doing with their sales. And, they had said they predicted they were going to have this payroll and this amount of sales and, whatever. And I was like, hey, how's it going? And in the restaurant business, if you've ever written restaurants, it can be pretty volatile. Sometimes you could say, I'm going to have $1 million in sales, and you might look up and you only have 400,000 by mid-year. And you're like, oh gosh, we're going to have a much, lighter year than I thought. You can make an adjustment on that, or maybe their payroll's not as much or whatever. But I remember when I was making that call, like, oh man, I'm so glad you called. I knew it was coming. As soon as I saw you come up. And so let me get into my office. I'll pull up everything. I was like, what? How do you know what I'm going to say? And they're like, oh, they told me about 6 months in, you would call me and check with me on this. And so let me pull that up and check it out. I do feel like we're going to be a little heavier on our numbers than I thought. And I want to make sure that we adjust the sales figures for that. I was like, oh, God, this is great. So again, a little squirrel moment there, but I think you could be more referable if you can walk people through that. Another thing would be, you can have more targeted ads, sharper messaging, things like that. So it reduces your ad costs and your marketing costs. And then, the last thing that I would say, and oh my gosh, I'm already at 30 minutes, so I want to make sure we wind down, is you can demonstrate your expertise a little better in niches or verticals. I don't know, however you want to say it. I'm sure you're annoyed by me saying it 3 different ways by now, but I'm sorry. Not sorry. But so yeah, you can demonstrate your expertise in your niche. Position yourself as a thought leader, because one of the things that you've heard me talk about in the past, if you've listened to this show for a while, or if you were in Vegas, or if you were in Virginia Beach, or any of the topics, conferences I've been through, when I talk about some of this, one of the stories that I tell is, positioning myself as that thought leader. It was one of those things to where I remember one time, I was calling on a buddy of mine in the HVAC business, and he lived a good ways away from me. And so I got out the early morning, drove down to his office. I told him I was coming because I wanted to take him to breakfast and visit with his guys before they went on jobs and just say hi, bring some donuts. And then I was going to prospect some other people around town while I was there. So I got down there, and it's early in the morning before they all head out for their jobs. And I get there, and Alan, the guy's name who owned the business, was like, oh, bro, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to be able to have you visit with us today. I appreciate the donuts, but I don't have time for lunch. I don't have time to make some introductions. We were going to go to a B&I meeting, and I was going to hang out with him and dad or whatever it was, some networking event. And I was like, man, I get it. And he was like, man, I'm really sorry. And I was like, why don't you let me go with you? And mid-sentence, he stopped. I was like, what? I was like, yeah, well, can I ride along with you? He was like, I guess if you want to, suit up, big boy, let's go. No, I didn't do any of the work. I didn't put them in liability or jeopardy of anything, but I just kind of rode along with him and his foreman went to different job sites, watched what they were doing. I may have carried a ladder and, just to feel like I was getting my hands dirty. Because if you're an insurance agent like me your whole life, my hands are kind of soft. I don't do a lot of manual labor. But in this situation, I got out and got to hang out and, hang out with the crews. I got to ride along with one of his foremen. I got to ride along with him. I went to a really cool job site at a Dairy Queen where I got to watch them do some, really cool, HVAC work there, hoist a large HVAC unit on the, on the roof there. I watched them do some really cool duct work, and it was just cool to see. The long story short of all that, afterwards, after spending 3 or 4 hours with him and going to some jobs, and when I had to go back, he was like, man, I have never had any insurance agent that I've worked with over the last 20 years that wanted to go on a ride along with me and see how things go. You need to go see so-and-so before you leave and tell him I sent you. I'll call him and blah, blah, blah. So I get there to see Bob, I think was his name. I think it was Bob's Heating and Air. I went to go see Bob, and Bob was like, oh, man, Alan just called and told me you went on a job with him and you went and saw this and you went and did that. And what'd you learn? And so I started telling him some of the things I learned and what I didn't know ahead of time. And this was cool and that was cool and seeing this. And he was like, do you think that could help you be a better insurance agent? And I was like, wow, Bob, yeah, actually I do, because now I've been there. I've seen it. So when people are talking to me about things, I can be like, oh, yeah, I do remember that. So, yeah, I do think I know the right questions to ask. And when they're talking about things, and he was like, oh, man. Well, as Alan called to me, here's all my deck pages. Here's what I need, my quotes, or my insurance doesn't come up. My X date's not for another couple of months, whatever that was. But definitely work me up a quote, come back and see me, blah, blah, blah. Ended up writing his business. But long story short, I was able to position myself as a thought leader because I went out on the job, because I decided I was going all in here, because I joined the HVAC Association, because I got to be such close friends with the president of the association, the executive vice president of the association, because I went to their events, because I spoke at their events, because I collaborated with them, I was able to see myself there. It's not all about Heath and bragging about me, just personal stories that I wanted to share on my podcast and maybe help you guys think about it. And I really had a lot of other things I wanted to get into, but I just rambled a lot here. But it's just something that's come up, and I told you I wouldn't get through too many mailbag things, but I got to one. But yeah, so that's something that I've gotten asked a lot, is about niches. And so come see me if you're going to be in North Carolina, if you're going to be at ITC in Vegas, or if you're going to be at Washington, D.C. at the National PIA Conference. Make sure you come see me, because I'd love to see you. And if you go to the IANC Insure Expo 25, come to my breakout, and you'll hear me break out even deeper. You'll see me dig even deeper into this topic, is that's one of my breakout topics I'm talking about. And then I'll be delivering my out of service keynote. But come see me, and you'll get to hear the full the full talk here. And we'll really dive in and talk through a lot more of this and some different how-tos and what to do, and we'll have a great conversation. Guys, I will let you go because it's been long enough. Thank you for letting me hang out with you guys today. Again, go check out Canopy Connect. Go check out Smart Choice, and go have a great, wonderful rest of your day. Love you all dearly. Thank you for being a listener. If you've never subscribed, please go subscribe. I'd love to see my numbers jump up, a couple, 20, 30, 50, 1,000, whatever. Go hit the subscribe button. Go give me 5-star review. Go tell me what you feel about the show. Tell me wonderful things. That would make me happy. I want more people to hear the show. And if you do too, please, by all means, give me a review. Like the show. I don't ask you a lot. So I'm asking you now, for me, to help me build our town. Do that for me. I love you dearly. Have a great day.